I'm just not a Bears fan. This is RamView. Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the September 27th, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions, call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's KistlerLawFirm.com. One word, better said without a frog in my throat. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair, having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. Hey, did Thursday sneak up on you? You didn't set your fantasy team just right? Go to Bench the app and never let that happen again. Download Bench the app today. All right, how do I start this? I'm going to say it this way. I've never really hated the Bears. I'm not a fan of Chicago. A couple of years ago, it took me $17 to just drive around the city of Chicago because of all the tolls and the Lori Lightfoot Bridge that cost $10 to cross over after I got out of Indiana. So I'm just not a fan of the windy city. Don't necessarily hate the Cubs. Don't necessarily hate the Bears. But the Bears are just one of those teams that engenders that false fandom. So going back a few years, I was working at a restaurant when I was a kid. And it was 1985. And I'm working there, and I'm working with these waiters and waitresses, and everyone wanted to be something else, which we all did, right? But they were all into acting or modeling or something like that. And they were talking about football. Okay, you're going to talk about football. Even when I was 20, I knew more football than those people did. It was my realm. I just kept my mouth shut. And I remember people were talking about who they liked. And this guy named Mitch, right there in the kitchen area, he says, "Oh, I'm a Bears man." And I'm like, "Really? You're a Bears man?" I mean, I honestly came this close to asking him, "Do you know who Doug Buffone was, right? Do you know who Noah Jackson was? Do you know who any Bobby Douglas was? Gary Huff? Do you know anything? Or was it because it was 1985, suddenly you were a Bears fan, right?" And then it was all the Bears, all that stuff on SNL. Everyone got into it. And I just got sick of it. So here's the problem. Every time the Rams play the Bears, it's never a clean game. At least in the Windy City, it is never a clean game. And so I just cringe when the Rams play the Bears. If they get out of there with a win, it's an ugly win, right? It's not a pretty win. And so I'm back and forth on this game. Now I think the Rams are going to win. I'm back and forth on this game, but I just hate how ugly these games are because I'm not a Bears fan necessarily, and I'm just sick of everyone that's going to come out of the woodwork again if this is the game where the light goes on with Caleb Williams. I love Caleb Williams, USC fan here, but can't you just sense it coming that all the bandwagoners are just dying for an opportunity to just jump in? Oh man, Caleb was my boy. He's my dog. He's the guy all the way. And because the Rams never really play well in Chicago, I have a sick anticipation. What I want to see so much is a 35-3 drubbing. And I want the discussion on the next day to be Rams have righted the ship. When are the Bears going to fire Matt Eberflus, right? And I'm not worried about saying when is Matt Eberflus going to get fired. He's going to be well compensated when he's canned, much better off than you and I are working 2 or 3 jobs on the same day. Anyway, that's just where I'm at. So my Rams stuff here that I start off with today is I like the Rams. My hope is that this isn't that week that Caleb Williams goes off. That's it. That's it. I get the feeling at some point he's going to. They're letting him throw the ball more. Confidence comes with that. He's got a great receiving core if they're healthy. And we know the Rams secondary is probably the weak point of the defense. So that's the part that has me worried. And just for news of note, I'm not saving this for the end of the show here. The last time the Rams won in Chicago was in 2003, 23-21. Jeff Wilkins field goal with 38 seconds left. Jeff Wilkins, who should be in any kind of a ring of honor. You want to honor the fans in St. Louis a little bit, Stan? Get a Jeff Wilkins statue up somewhere at SoFi. The guy was probably the greatest kicker in Rams history. 38 seconds left. He beats the Bears. But the last time the Los Angeles Rams won in Chicago was November 3rd, 1986, 20-17. Steve Dills completes 6 out of 25 passes, throws a touchdown pass and an interception. But those 5 of those completions, I think, came in the fourth quarter. A 65-yard touchdown pass to Ron Brown, and Mike Lansford kicked a 50-yard field goal to beat the Bears in the Windy City, 20-17. That's probably my best memory. And even that game was feeling like the Bears couldn't put the Rams away, and somehow the Rams were making it work. And you got to remember, the Bears were coming off that 1985 season. If this is November of 86, this is 10 months after that drubbing they put on the Rams in the NFC title game, and the Rams went there and they won. And so that's probably the best game they played there. Every other game, the weather's bad. That game back in 2018, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So we're anxious and we're positive. I'm trying to be positive for the Rams here because I want the Rams to win. I want them to win convincingly. I don't want to hear about how everyone's going to be jumping on the Bears bandwagon. It's going to happen soon enough because I do believe Caleb Williams is going to get it together. But when it does happen, it's just going to be gross to see. Looking at that cornerback room, just because people have been asking about Ahkello Witherspoon. I think Bill was asking in Pennsylvania about Ahkello. Darius Williams, they said, is more likely to return, even though he's eligible next week. He's more likely to return after the bye in week 7. People are a little curious about Williams' contract because it's a 3-year deal. But honestly, the Rams may owe him 17 rocks, but his dead cap hit would only be 3 rocks. So if they had to cut him next March when he's 32, it's not the end of the world. If the Rams can wring out a good back half of the season out of Darius Williams, we're all going to be happy, and then we'll just see how it looks going into 2025. There is, as McVay said, likelihood that Ahkello Witherspoon will be activated on Saturday for Sunday's game, which I like to hear because if the Bears do have an advantage over the Rams right now, a clear advantage, I would say, it is Rome Odunze, it is DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen has been practicing. And I don't want to see Keenan Allen become Caleb Williams' security blanket against the Rams and bailing him out of a lot of things because we know what Keenan Allen is capable of. And so we need Quentin Lake to step up. But that's the area that scares me. So happily, I am happy Witherspoon is being activated. Again, going back to the Rams offensive line, it looks like for the second week in a row, we're going to have the same offensive line, which is good. But again, going over the offensive line, Alaric Jackson's an undrafted free agent. Logan Bruss is a 3rd-round draft pick who's played his first snaps basically last week. Bo Limmer is a 6th-round pick this year. Kevin Dotson was a 4th-round pick of the Steelers that somehow they felt they didn't need anymore. And then Rob Havenstein's a 2nd-round pick from a decade ago. Did you see Amarius Mims play for the Bengals on this past week? Amarius Mims was drafted ahead of Jared Verse by the Bengals this year. And they rolled with that guy, even though he had minimal starts. We can draft a tackle, but it doesn't mean the tackle is going to play well, right? And so it's just about developing. It's finding out who can play. And because they're drafted number 1 does not mean that. Look at that offensive line for the Rams, and you don't see a number 1 pick there. You see at best a 2nd-round pick, and you see a lot of guys that were developed, right? Things to think about, PFF grades, which are a great place to start, not a place to land. PFF grades, the Rams pass blocking is number 32 in the league. Rams have the worst pass protection in the league, yet Stafford was upright enough to beat the 49ers last week with Nick Bosa and those guys coming in after him. PFF does rate the Rams run blocking as number 16. The other thing that was noted by a lot of folks about the Rams, and I thank you guys for clicking on right now and throwing the questions out there. Another thing that was noted about the Rams was they ran a lot of 12 personnel last week, one running back and two tight ends instead of one running back, one tight end, and three receivers. And part of that was not really talked about. Just heard one individual talk about it, was Hunter Long. Hunter Long, who I'm indifferent about, that if the Rams put him in the street, I wouldn't care. I don't think anyone would care. But Hunter Long has not been targeted with the Rams, wasn't targeted last week, but he is an excellent blocker, and he showed it last week. And if that's the Rams' game plan going forward to help with the running game, which needs to be established here again in Chicago, then hello, Corey Harkey, right? If Hunter Long could be the Rams' next Corey Harkey, never catch a pass, preach, let him do it. And you just got to love, again, what McVay does to get this team ready. All right, around the NFL and other places, Christian McCaffrey got back from Germany, not necessarily designated for any return anytime soon. I understand, if he can stay off the field, give him extra time to get healthy, and the 49ers can stay in contention, it's all good for them, right? The less hits that guy takes, it's good for them. But this is a lingering tendonitis, which I'm sure Frisco's a little bit concerned about. And here's the other thing. Jordan Mason's running really well, but they've already lost Elijah Mitchell. We've seen them in the past lose Raheem Mostert. They lose guys because those backs are so physical. And at some point, Jordan Mason, as much as he delivers punishment, he could be susceptible. So that's all good for the Rams. But he's not on the field. They are apparently, possibly, getting Debo back this week. We'll see as we get later in the show. In other places, an ESPN analyst says the fans should boycott WNBA games until Caitlin Clark tells her fans to stop spewing racist remarks, or apparently her fans. First, the ESPN host forgets kind of that ESPN has the contract with the WNBA to show their game. Secondly, and more importantly, no one is going to be watching the WNBA now that Caitlin Clark and her team is out, right? And now the KBM's endless search for traction against Caitlin Clark is to label again Brittany Griner doing his thing this other day about saying that, I'm just upset by all the racist taunts and everything. And it's an attempt to diminish the Caitlin Clark effect. And that's okay. It's like, I'm not a big fan of the WNBA. Caitlin Clark is an outlier. She makes it really interesting. And again, note to Caitlin Clark, until Elon Musk starts his own women's league, don't take up golf this season. Take up self-defense. And the first time you're cheap-shotted, don't hold your hands and look to the ref for help. Instead, when someone takes a cheap shot at you, get up and Tom Janovich the offender, right? Take the fine, take the suspension. Tom Janovich, the next person that does it to you, and the one after that. And by the third time, the message will be received that you're not waiting for help. I didn't play at a high level, but you've played at the park. You've played at the rec center, played in the church, and there are people that will bully you. They'll bounce you around, not to the extent that Clark, I think, is taking some hits. But until you push back, they'll just keep doing it. It is another form of bullying, and you better answer it. And she better be prepared to Tom Janovich somebody. And if you need clarification about Tom Janovich, ask me in the questions, and I'll be happy to clear it up for you. Lions have activated former Ram receiver Allen Robinson, who's trying to eke out a little more in his career. Giants activated Duke Shelley last night from the practice squad. Micah Parsons has a high ankle sprain. DeMarcus Lawrence is to miss multiple weeks with a foot injury. We saw the Cowboys-Giants yesterday, and you just weren't overwhelmed. It looked like the Giants had limitations. Cowboys couldn't put them away. Giants couldn't score a touchdown. Cowboys couldn't put them away. And so, yeah. And now Parsons has a high ankle sprain. DeMarcus Lawrence is to miss a couple of weeks of foot injury. And Parsons is looking for a big contract, and I'm not a big Micah Parsons guy. Again, they paid the wrong people in Dallas, and it's going to be marvelous to see. Every time we come here, we do coaches on the hot seat this season. Robert Saleh, yeah. Nick Sirianni, boy, that was a close shave last week. Dennis Allen, maybe not so much at the moment. Gerard Mayo, I think he's an end-of-season can. Mike McCarthy needed that win last night to keep his head above water. But the two guys, Eberflus, a bad performance coupled with a bad loss. You can lose 20-17 and they'll say, hey, we saw some good things. But a bad performance where maybe Caleb still struggles and the Rams win 38-9. Eberflus could be seriously on the hot seat. Another coach that wasn't on the hot seat at the beginning of the year, but is about to go 0-4 in Houston is Doug Peterson, because that's where the Jaguars are going. And they're not even struggling in the sense that, hey, we're all together and we're struggling. They don't look like they're all together. Trevor Lawrence is showing weird emotion, right? Showing a lot of frustration. And, Trevor Lawrence at this point has been the Opie of the NFL. And he looks frustrated, and he's got to be better than he's playing, right? He's got to be better than he's playing. And they're not going to dump the quarterback they extended for big bucks. They're going to dump Doug Peterson. Really interesting. Finally, before we go to break, I think Colin Cowherd announcing that he occasionally visits a psychic kind of disqualifies him from declaring Aaron Rodgers a bit of a weirdo and too quirky for his views on vax, meditation, darkness retreats. All of it's weird, but I think going to a psychic and announcing it to the world, that's kind of weird. So Colin Cowherd will just put you over here on some of your statements about Aaron Rodgers. All right, guys. I'm Joe Terosian, a sports writer for 21 years. Now I'm blessed to do RamView. Thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law. I had a great conversation with Paul Kistler today. We thank you for your support, Mr. Kistler. And Bench the App, which is one of our new sponsors here. And basically their line is, if you're tired of losing because you forgot to check your lineup with Benched, that's a thing of the past. Benched is the only app that ensures you never leave a non-starting player in your lineup. Don't miss out on crucial points. Don't be the one who forgot to bench a player on game day. Win your league, keep your pride, deliver some spite, and let Bench the App handle the rest. Download Bench the App today and dominate your fantasy season. I also, along with our sponsors, another way we supplement our income here is through books. I've written recently Game Day in the RamCave. I know a lot of you have purchased it. Thank you so much. If you're new here, please hit like and subscribe. And if you can, this is a fictional book, Rams-Packers, and a fictional NFC Championship game. Had a lot of fun writing it. If you could check it out, purchase it, I would be grateful. We don't have a Patreon here, and I don't hide behind a paywall, but this allows me to keep doing this as well as stay employed in my day job. I pastor a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene, and you can find us right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, as well as burbankfaithvirtual.com, Burbank Faith Virtual at Facebook, and all across social media. And if you have any questions to ask about that nature of things, I'm happy to answer them for you. Let's look at our questions that have piled up. Micah Gutierrez, what's up? Thank you so much for clicking on. Appreciate you. Tim Burns, Rams 31, Bears 17. Xavier Smith gets a score. Punt return? Can I have it be a punt return, Mr. Burns? Xavier Smith going to be returning kicks. Anxious to see that. Yes. Tim Burns, New York style in the summer. Chicago deep dish when it's cold, comfort food. I moved off the deep dish. I do like New York style still. Let's see. USA expat. Kitchen scores first TD defensive touchdown of the season. Scoop and score, pick. Again, preach expat. I want to hear it. Ugly football. Win the turnovers, 2 turnovers, and the trenches. Okay, yeah, I agree. Tim Burns, Super Bowl shuffle. Showed white dudes had no rhythm and brothers couldn't rap. Terrible. Did you ever see the Rams answer to that in 85, or I think it was in 86, just ram it? Yeah, that was an awkward one. That was really an awkward video the Rams made. Micah Gutierrez, I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb looks good. Yeah, me too. After scoring his first passing TD last week, I'm sure he'll be eager to get the win at home. Absolutely. Absolutely. He's a competitor and he's got tools. DJ Moore is maybe the most underrated receiver in the NFL. You put DJ Moore in Buffalo, you put him in KC, heck, you put him in LA, and he's a household name. Unfortunately, he's been in Carolina and Chicago. Not exactly a Coryell-esque offenses there that he's been in his career. That's a good lineup. And last thing you want is for Caleb Williams to have time to throw. USA expat. I met Ron Brown at the Olympic trials. Yeah, he's a Baldwin Park product, which is kind of that's more than a stone's throw away. But yeah, we covered his son in football. Baldwin Park was one of the main schools that we covered when I was working at Mid-Valley Sports. Yeah, I liked his run with the Rams. Tim Burns, Stafford passes Eli this week in career yards. Nice. Thoughts on Eli? I can't decide if he is among the Giant greats. 2 Super Bowls for Eli. Both those Super Bowls, came against Tom Brady and the 2007 Patriots, which would be considered the greatest team in history, if not for, what was that? Was that the Tyree catch? No, that was the Plaxico catch. That was the Tyree catch. Mario Manningham had the catch in 2011. I think Eli is right there with the Giants greats. And I have no problem, because of those Super Bowls, him getting Hall of Fame consideration, as long as Jim Plunkett gets Hall of Fame consideration. There we go. Let's see here. Tim Burns, Verse and Fisk said they have the speed down now, and they will see the adjustments. So cool to see. They know what's up. Yeah, I have it in my notes when I'm breaking down the game here, is I think Kyler Murray might have been a nice primer for them, getting ready to play Caleb Williams. And it's just a matter of time. These guys can tackle. They can tackle. They wouldn't be at this level if they couldn't tackle. And everything they've done, and I stand by this. I think I said it in Monday's show. Did I say it Wednesday? Is if Verse had finished off 2/3 of all the plays he's been in position to make, we'd be talking about him as Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, as a top 5 defensive player. Right? That's how the buzz would be about Jared Verse, and I think it's just a matter of time. I fully agree. Tim Burns, Stafford. Let's see. Tim Burns, we need the yards per carry to go above 3 this week. Hey, again, we talk about, you can get 4 yards, but if you next 2, you get a couple of yards here or there, or a jet sweep gets tackled in the backfield or something. As long as it's enough to keep moving the chains, as long as it's enough for them to think about, and as long as it's enough that McVay doesn't go back to old habits where he just abandons the run at all completely, and then basically sets up Matthew Stafford to be a human target. They just need to run the ball. And they got to get better than that, and they should be able to. Tim Burns, what? Wait, I'm a racist? I love CC and everyone else, even the real mules of the WNBA. Okay. Tim Burns, the sidekick explains his lousy game winner choices. Tim Powers, Stafford's first game as Ram was against the Bears, but we were in LA and had all the wide receivers. And guess who caught that pass? That was Van Jefferson, right? Van Jefferson caught that pass. That's right. That was a good day. That was a really good day. Okay, let's take a look here. No new injuries for the Rams. Rams injury report, if you saw it, only lists Cooper Kupp, who we knew wasn't going to play, Davis Allen, who still got that tricky back after that, a couple of snaps there in Detroit, and then Logan Bruss, who missed a couple of snaps last week with a finger, but did not affect him in any way. Logan Bruss is a big ugly. By the time his career is over, I don't want it to happen, but it's likely he's going to have Brian Baldinger fingers or Torrey Holt fingers, right? Have you seen Torrey Holt's fingers? Did you ever see Chuck Bednarret's fingers? Yeah, they're kind of like that and stuff. I guess that's the price you pay. But I think Logan Bruss could be okay. Big game for him, putting 2-2 back together. Let's see here. Bears Rams in the 10 a.m. window. Weather right now, as far as I've heard, is going to be fair and decent. Shane Waldron is the OC. He's taking the heat right now. He's taking the heat for the slow start. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this game. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen is working out. Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, Mercedes Lewis, the tight end room. And this is it, secondary. It's the Rams secondary. If this is going to turn out to be the Caleb Williams coming out game, this is where it will happen. It will happen with the receivers. That's why I'm pretty good about Ahkello Witherspoon maybe getting activated for this game for depth. Keenan Allen coming back just makes Moore and Odunze that more dangerous. If Trey White turning a corner, he had a better second half against Frisco last week, right? He played better in the second half. And again, Trey White's a Pro Bowl caliber corner who basically missed most of the last 2 seasons. It's about learning to play again. Of course, didn't play in preseason. He just can avoid that big play. I think Trey White's going to be okay. And if we can get the best version of Kobe Durant, I think sometimes Kobe Durant stands out, sometimes he recedes, and so we need him. But the real concern for me in the Rams secondary is the back porch. It's Cam Curl, Cam Kitchens. As USA Expat Select said, make Kitchens do a scoop and score or get a pick six. I hope it happens. He's a beast. He's Taylor Rapp. Right now, he's Taylor Rapp. Hopefully he progresses to get better in coverage. But right now, he's Taylor Rapp. The offensive line for the Bears, Braxton Jones at left tackle, has a knee issue. Tavane Jenkins, Coleman Shelton at center, right guard's Matt Pryor, and right tackle's Darnell Wright. He's got a back issue. So the Rams D-line stood toe-to-toe with the Frisco line last week. And right now, both Bears tackles have an issue. And Coleman Shelton, who we love as a Ram, the Rams milked as much as they could out of him, is at best a rotational piece. He's a guy you keep on your roster because he can play center and guard, and you keep him around. But I don't know if you want him starting the whole time. I mean, he did a nice job for the Rams, but you can always upgrade from him. But he's somebody you want on your roster. So he's the starting center, and he's had some struggles. Both Verse, as we talked about, both Verse and Young have the ability to track people down. Fisk can do it as well to an extent, but they got to finish those hurries and pressures. They have to finish, right? They just have to finish. If this group plays well, if they can harass Caleb, if they can contain Caleb and don't fall into those traps they fell into with Kyler Murray, the questions about the secondary will go away. But again, that's right where it falls down to. Defensively, the Bears have Montez Sweat and DeMarcus Walker on the edge, Jervon Dexter at D tackle, and Andrew Billings. Billings is the star guy there at D tackle. He's got a knee issue. Montez Sweat was the guy they spent some money for, and he's struggling a little bit with an elbow. As of today, Rams have 2 games in a row set up where they'll have the same offensive line. Communication will be better. Sweat's been good in the past, but he's only been okay this year, right? In the line, again, Billing has some struggles right now health-wise. Rams ran on Frisco. They should be able to run on the Bears, and that will help keep Stafford upright. And if they keep Stafford upright, the Rams win. I think someone timed it out. Not sure what show I heard it on. Maybe I saw it on PFF. Stafford had up to 3 seconds to throw last week. Stafford with 3 seconds, that's difference maker right there, right? Back half of the Bears defense, they got Tremaine Edmonds, Jack Sandberg, TJ Edwards. They're always going to go heavy at linebacker in Chicago, and I think that's what gets them in trouble. They did retain Jalen Johnson, who's an elite corner, and he can take someone away, but who's he going to take away, right? Stafford, if he has time, will easily go to someone else, right? Stafford's going to go to someone else. He's not dependent. If you remember Drew Bledsoe when he broke in, it was Ben Coates. If you remember Brett Favre in early years in Green Bay, and even Don Mikowski a little bit, it was Sterling Sharp, right? There's these comfort guys that they have, right? And right now, Stafford doesn't need a comfort guy. He can make the other guys work. He has some time. He's going to go to someone else. And I'm just stunned by the praise I'm hearing for Tutu Atwell. It's funny how everyone's done a flip there. Bottom line remains the same. Keep Stafford upright, run the ball, then run the ball some more. Don't give them a chance to put a hit on Stafford. I know this sounds so, they take care of the ball, don't turn it over, next man up, cliche stuff. But you don't want them, Chicago feeds off its defense. Even if their offense is playing well, they're going to be their defense the fans get all into. Don't give it to them. Just pound the ball. Rams running 12 personnel, pound the ball and soften it up, and then let Stafford do his stuff. Again, Caleb Williams with this receiver talent is going to get it together sooner or later, hopefully later. But as we said, playing Kyler Murray 2 weeks ago was a good primer for this defense. I'm still going to say it's not pretty. Rams win 23-10. That's what I'm saying here. All right, let's look down here. Tim Burns. I hear Steeler fan Rob is choosing the Herbert Les Bolts. Isn't Steeler his first his name? No. what is this? He's choosing the Chargers over the Chiefs. Oh man, that's bad. Let's say Tim Powers. I smell Archie Manning against the Rams in 71 opener. Rams supposed to beat the Saints. Manning did us in at the end of the game. There's a lot to that, right? And of course, that was another place where the Rams always struggled, whether it was the Superdome or Tulane Stadium. How many times did you go there? And the Rams just didn't play well, right? A lot of times they came out with a win, but they just didn't play well. There was just something about certain places, bad mojo. And so that's what concerns me. You're absolutely right, Mr. Powers. It concerns me that he gets it together. He gets it together this week. And we don't want to see that happen, because he gets it together. The receiving core is what is going to do it for him. He doesn't have to worry about establishing. Well, he needs a running game that'll help him. But again, and that's up to our D line and our front seven. But Caleb Williams, get that confidence, get that rapport going with those receivers. Where are the Rams most vulnerable? It is in the backyard, right? DB. That's where they're most vulnerable, at least to this point. So something to think about. All right, Tim Burns. Hypothetical, Bledsoe gets his job back when healthy. Do Pats become a dynasty? I like Drew Bledsoe, but there was something about Tom Brady, right? There was that it factor with Tom Brady. It just was. Trent Green stays healthy. Does the Rams become the greatest show on turf, right? And we've seen it in the micro at our level where we've covered football at the mid 2.59 kids. One of them is what you expect from a 5'9" kid playing in San Gabriel Valley, hands the ball off, has a weak arm. And then there's another 5'9" kid, has a weak arm, but he's a decision maker. I think what separated Warner from Trent Green was a much quicker processing and getting rid of the ball. And somewhere along the way, I think the same thing with Brady. I don't think it's the same with Drew Bledsoe. And I'm a Drew Bledsoe fan. But Brady's Brady, right? Brady is Brady. Okay, let's look at week 4. Week 3, I was 8-8. Happy to say. Cowboys beat the Giants at the Jason Garrett Bowl. But the Giants were only one TD away. It's not a good look for the Pokes going forward. I don't think they're that great of a team. I think the Taxkins give them trouble. The Eagles give them trouble. And we'll see how it goes. Bengals, Panthers in the Red Rifle Bowl. It would be sweet to see Andy Dalton do in his old franchise since he has to win this game. They don't have to just win this game for this year, but for the sake of the next few years and the psyche of the franchise. Because, at least the Rams got out from under Georgia and Kroenke gave you hope. The Browns, the Brown family has controlled the Bengals for so long. And it's the same old routine, right? A rise and a big fall, mediocrity, rise and a big fall. And they can lose their way real fast. If they lose this game to the Panthers are a better team with Andy Dalton, but I'm going to put the Bengals as taking the Red Rifle Bowl. I said the Rams will win the Bill Wadey Bowl, 23-10. Vikings, Packers in the Brett Favre Bowl. Pack is expecting Jordan Love to play. Vikes getting back Dallas Turner. But Jordan Love coming back, being at Lambeau, I'm going with the Packers in this one. I'm not 100% in on the Vikings. Vikings scare me when the Rams play them, but I'm not 100% with them just yet. Jaguars at the Texans. Doug Peterson's in trouble. They're 0-3. They're about to go 0-4. Tank Dell, Jimmy Ward are listed as doubtful. Are out. I'm sorry. Joe Mixon is questionable. Jacksonville is without Evan Ingram, and they're just not playing right. They're just not playing right. I think the Texans go to 3-1. Steelers, Colts, the Roy Jefferson Bowl. Alex Highsmith and Jalen Warren are out. Kwity Paye, DeForest Buckner are out for the Colts. It's close. I'm leaning Indy because if there's anything, you're not going to expect Anthony Richardson to matriculate his team down the field, but that dude can make a big play. He's got a gun for an arm, and he can make a big play. And if he makes a big play or a couple of big plays, we have not seen Justin Fields do anything that's going to bring his team back, right? We just haven't, not yet. And Shane Steichen, if he figures out a way to pound Jonathan Taylor, use Anthony Richardson in a spot way, and keeps from giving Pittsburgh momentum through its defense, I don't know if Justin Fields has the chops to bring them back from a 2-score game. So again, I'm going with the Colts over the Steelers. Broncos Jets Matt Robinson Bowl. I think if the Jets lose this game, someone's going to be hanged higher than Heyman. It's just they can't lose this game. They just can't. Eagles at Buccaneers. I like the Bucs a lot, but lots of injuries, right? Lots of injuries. Devonta Smith is out. A.J. Brown, Layden Johnson are questionable for the Eagles. I'm not a huge Saquon Barkley fan. I think he's good, and I think he's good enough to pound for the Eagles this week. If they're willing to pound it, I take the Eagles on the road. Taxkins Cardinals. Taxkins are without Austin Eckler. Cards without Trey McBride. Yeah, I like the Taxkins. I do. They could shock the world if they get this win, right? You get the big win in Cincy in front of the nation, and then follow it up by staying consistent and beat the Cardinals and go to 3-1. Yeah, that's a big one. Patriots at 49ers in the Jim Plunkett Bowl. Niners, Javon Hargrave and McCaffrey, of course, are out, but Debo, Kittle, Hufanga, and Trent Williams. Actually, Kittle is playing. Hufanga, Trent Williams, and Debo are questionable. I think Trent Williams is going to play. I think Hufanga is going to play. Not sure about Debo. 49ers going to win this one. Patriots just don't have enough. They don't have enough. Chiefs at Chargers in the Mike Garrett Bowl. With Herbert already banged up, Derwin James suspended, and the Bolts are already going to be without Rashawn Slater, Joey Bosa, and linebacker Julian Colson. Just take the L. Take the L. Don't even injure Taylor Heineke. Start Easton Stick, right? Start Easton Stick. Get out of this game with no more injuries. Get healthy because you're not going to beat the Chiefs. You're not. Something weird. The Chiefs are going to have to, get food poisoning the night before. Something's bad's going to happen to the Chiefs for them to lose this game against the Bolts on Sunday. Browns at Raiders, the Lyle Alzado Bowl. The way these teams are banged up, it looks like halftime at a rollerball match. Max Crosby, Thayer Munford are doubtful. Devontae Adams is out. The Browns are without Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin, David Njoku, but Myles Garrett is playing. And that just might be the difference, although Colton is playing for the Raiders. Toss-up game, I'm going to the Raiders at home. Saints-Falcons feels very close, Bobby Hebert Bowl. No center, no right tackle for the Falcons, but they are at home, and I'm going with the Saints in this one, going with the Saints. Sunday night, Bills-Ravens. Baltimore's Tyler Linderbaum is questionable, the center. They've already got struggles in their offensive line. Baltimore only wins if it's a blowout, and the Bills aid them with mistakes, because if it's close, Josh Allen gets the win, and I'm going with Josh Allen and the Bills. Monday night, Titans-Dolphins. I am going to watch this game, the Ryan Tannehill Bowl. It's a hard one to pick. Who's got the better quarterback between who? Tim Boyle and Will Levis. I'm going to go with Will Levis. And then Seahawks at Lions, the Golden Tate Bowl. Sam Laporta and Dan Skipper practiced today. Brian Branch is expected to be released from concussion protocol. Aleem McNeil practiced. The only one the Seahawks are missing is center Frank Ragnow. And right where that would affect them, Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy are banged up and questionable for the Seahawks on that line. And Byron Murphy could miss. He's got a hamstring issue. Boye Mafe is banged up. Noah Fant and Kenneth Walker are banged up. So there are big issues there in Seattle. And they're going to Detroit. They're going in that environment. I think Detroit takes them. I think Detroit takes them there. And they would be doing us a favor. Thank you, Goff and Brad Holmes. There we go. I think we got that through there.
It was a stone.
It was a stone.
Man.
Let's see who's with us right now. If you guys have any other questions thrown this way. Tim Burns, I will never figure the Raiders out. Lose to crap teams, beat the good ones. Yeah, I agree. How do you figure out the Raiders? It's like Sound of Music. How do you solve a problem like Maria? You never know, right? Let's see. Looking at Rams history here. Not a whole lot. 1970, on this day in 1970, the Rams beat the Bills 19-0. David Ray, 4 field goals. Willie Ellison, touchdown run. O.J. Simpson held to 24 yards. Rams get 5 sacks. Clancy Williams gets 3 picks. Good for Clancy Williams, the late Ram cornerback. On this day in 2020, the Bills beat the Rams 35-32. Do you ever see that game there in Orchard Park where they beat the Rams? Rams had that game won. A couple of cheap roughing the passer calls cost the Rams that game. That was very upsetting. On this tomorrow, September 28th, 1979, the Rams signed Bill Bain, the guy that was flaming out in the NFL, and they turned him into a high caliber offensive lineman. He was a bust, and the Rams got great clicks out of him. Let's see here. What else? Oh, September 29th, that's Sunday. And I wanted to throw this out for the record. 2008, on September 29th, the Rams fired Scott Linehan and named Jim Haslett interim head coach. In 2006, Linehan went 8-8 with 3-13 in 2007. And beware Doug Peterson, because Linehan went 0-4 to start 2008, and they canned him. Now, here's the thing. Maybe cut Linehan just a small bit of slack here, because his GM was Jay Zygmunt, who resigned at the end of the 2008 season. The Rams had 11 top 100 picks in 2006, 2007, and 2008. Those 11 picks were Ty Hill, Joe Kloffenstein, Claude Roden, John Alston, Dominique Byrd, Adam Carricker, Brian Leonard, Jonathan Wade, Chris Long, Donnie Avery, and John Greco. Maybe cut Linehan a little slack for whoever was doing the finalizing of that drafting, who was doing the scouting of that drafting. 11 picks in the first 100 over 3 seasons, and they had 1 hit. And that was Chris Long, who was a solid NFL player. Glad he got his rings in New England and Philly at the end. But come on, Chris Long was not Jack Youngblood, right? Adam Carricker wasn't even Chris Long. Brian Leonard was in Cincy after a while. Donnie Avery didn't have a bad start, had bad knees. Ty Hill was not Pat Thomas. Joe Kloffenstein, he wasn't Tyler Higbee. It was just brutal. Just something to think about there. On this date, Sunday, the 29th, it'll be the 9-year anniversary of the Rams waiving Isaiah Pead. Well, what's the big deal about Isaiah Pead? Well, Rams were at the 45 spot. Chicago wanted to move up, and this is in the 2012 draft. And so Chicago offered their second-round pick at number 50 and a 5th-round pick to move up 5 spots. Rams agreed, and the Bears took Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey maybe not be the greatest receiver, but he played 9 years in the NFL, 475 catches, 46 TDs, and he had a pretty solid postseason with the Eagles and got a Super Bowl ring in 2017. Alshon Jeffrey was a tie-in NFL receiver for a number of years. Isaiah Pead played 4 years with the Rams, 4 years in the NFL, 3 with the Rams, had 30 carries, 100 yards, 15 catches, no touchdowns. So when you talk about busts, give Tutu Atwell and some of these other guys a break. Remember, the Rams made a move and this was under Les Snead. Les Snead made this move in 2012. Just throwing it out there. Okay, let's see if we got anything else that has come in. Bill joined us. All right. What happened to Hampton and their other outside pass rushers? That's a great question. Brandon Jackson, Nick Hampton. And, I think Byron Young and Jared Verse have just played at a high level. And Hoyt seems to be bouncing around. He comes as an edge. There's times he's got his hand in the dirt. He's interior a little bit. And they just haven't found room for those guys yet. Hopefully they can get worked in as long as it's not through injury. But that's a great question because people have kind of all of a sudden Nick Hampton and Brennan Jackson just disappeared. Let's see. Bill, Rams need to stop the run if they want to win Sunday. Now that's an interesting thing I didn't touch on is DeAndre Swift's just not doing it, right? He's struggling. And so what's interesting about that is last night the Giants could not run on the Cowboys. Cowboys had the worst run defense in the NFL, and the Giants couldn't move the ball. They just couldn't move the ball. And, it would be a real crying shame if somewhere the Bears, who can't get a one running game going, like they're literally averaging like 1 yard a carry almost, if they suddenly get it going and DeAndre Swift looks like DeAndre Swift from 5 years ago. That's a great point to make there, Bill. One more question from Bill here. Will the Rams finally get a defensive touchdown this Sunday? Oh, yeah. Earlier in the show, USA expat, he guaranteed that Cam Kitchens is going to score the Rams' first defensive touchdown this year. He didn't say it was a scoop and score. He didn't say if it was a scoop and score or a pick six. But he did. He did. So the Rams are going to get it, right? And I will say to USA expat, I will get you a Kistler Law mug and a copy of one of my books. I'll send it to you. If Cam Kitchens scores, I'll send you one of those things if Cam Kitchens scores the Rams' first defensive touchdown this year. Richard Ramos, I remember a bust, Cleveland Gary. Cleveland Gary is interesting about he was disappointing. He had a 1,000-yard season for the Rams. I think it was in what? Was it 92? He had a 1,000-yard season for the Rams. 14 touchdowns. He had that one, but he fumbled a lot, right? And he looked promising, right? When they drafted him, I was really happy. Oh, hey, Cleveland Gary. Now that's a guy. You're going to get out of the Greg Bell business. They tried to do something with a washed-up Kurt Warner, C-U-R-T, Kurt Warner, the Penn State guy, played in Seattle. And you thought Cleveland Gary was going to be something. And, he had that one season. And because the Rams are so bad, and then the next year, I think they drafted Bettis. And I don't know what else was going on in those days, maybe with Cleveland Gary, but he couldn't hang on to the ball. Chuck Knox got Bettis, and Cleveland Gary, he left the Rams. I think he went to Miami. And I think the Rams, when they were in St. Louis, brought him back for a moment for a cup of coffee. And then he was done. Yeah, he was done. Bill, remembering Toby Wright hit against Tiki Barber that I felt watching. You know what? I vaguely remember. I loved Toby Wright. I really liked Toby Wright and stuff. But he was the one. He didn't make it to 99, did he? He didn't make it to 99. Keith Lyle made it to 99. Was it Lyle? Oh, man. I'm butchering this one. Keith Lyle. Toby Wright was the one that didn't make it to the 99 squad. And I always felt bad for him. He was kind of like our Doug Plank. Doug Plank played, 9 years with the Bears. And then, he wore number 46. The defense was named after him. And then he was finished after the 84 season, didn't play on the 85 Bears. And I'm thinking if it was somebody, Lyle was the safety. My brain is blanking right now. Somebody look that up. Toby Wright played through 98. I don't think he was on the Super Bowl team, but Toby Wright could hit. Yeah, he was one of those few bright spots in the Rams secondary in those days. I don't exactly remember the Tiki Barber hit, but I'll take your word for it. Okay, let's keep rolling here. Again, hit like and subscribe. I think I hit on everything. I'm just going through here. Boom, 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 boom. Did you think I saw memes asking that Daniel Jones is the worst quarterback in the NFL? And I said, if you're thinking Daniel Jones is the worst quarterback in the NFL, then you haven't seen Bryce Young play, right? Bryce Young is terrible. Now, Daniel Jones, there were moments I thought he looked pretty good last night, but man, can you tell the difference between a quarterback who's got that arm ability that how many shots was Daniel Jones short on? And I don't think it's an arm strength issue. I think it's just he just missed these guys when they were open and they just couldn't get in the end zone, right? He's mobile. He's tough. I don't think he's bad, but you know what he looks like? He looks like a really high-end backup to me. And because some of those completions you just got to get. Now, your receivers got to help you out a little bit, but he was short on a lot of passes last night. And again, it's not like he's weak-armed. It's not like he's Steve Walsh, right? Michael Negretti, thank you for clicking on Let's Go Rams. Hola, Pastor Joe. Hola, Dios te bendiga. Thank you for clicking on and stuff. So let me go through the top here one more time as we get to the 50-minute mark, and I'll be letting you guys go enjoy your Friday night. I don't like Chicago. I never hated the Bears necessarily. I never really hated the Cubs. Not necessarily was a big Bulls fan, but the city of Chicago I don't like. A few years ago, I had to drive around the city of Chicago, and it cost me $17 to cross the Lori Lightfoot Bridge and go through all the toll booths just to avoid downtown Chicago, and that left a bitter taste in my mouth. And then the Bears are one of those teams because of their defense. When they catch fire, a lot of bandwagoners jump on. And I shared a story many years ago when I was working in a restaurant. This guy, Mitch, announced to the world that he's a Bears man. And it's like, yeah, in 1985, how hard was it to be a Bears man, right? And so I just sense this, that if somehow there's that Archie Manning moment that Tim Powers talked about, somehow there's that moment where the light goes on, and the announcers and everyone are going to be all excited. Rams have a 17-point lead. Caleb Williams gets a touchdown. The Rams turn the ball over, and then he's driving for the game-winning score. And the coming out. We're seeing the maturity of an NFL quarterback, the maturing of a quarterback, and everyone's going to be bandwagoning, right? Everyone's going to be talking about it, and there's just that room there because every time the Rams play in Chicago, they don't play their best. Sometimes they sneak out with a victory, but they haven't won there in 21 years. And the Los Angeles Rams haven't won there since 1986. So that's my fear that's going to happen. I just don't want to live through that experience. I think there's room here. Defense does what it's supposed to do, finishes off plays. There's room here for a 28-10 Ram win. I totally believe that. But there's also room here for a lot of ugliness. And, can the Rams maintain it together? Can they keep it together? Can Logan Bruss develop a little bit more? Can Bo Limmer keep going now? Those two are huge deals. No one talked about it, but boy, did you see the Rams run right? The Rams ran right behind Dotson and Havenstein last week. And those guys can plow the road. Rams are going to be in good shape. All right, let's look at the questions here before I wrap up. Bill, do the Rams make a major trade before the deadline? What trade do you see? I'd hate for them to move any of these receivers because I don't want Stafford to have to build rapport with somebody. If you bring in a great receiver, I mean, you're talking top of the line, Devontae Adams, people have talked about, but Adams is banged up right now. What do you have to give up for that? So to me, receivers can be replaced. Do you know I was watching the game last night, and what kind of went through my head is that I'd like to see the Rams make a move for a defensive tackle. I know we're waiting for Tyler Davis to develop. I think we've seen the best of Bobby Brown. And yet, if the Rams can get an anchor there in the middle, wouldn't it be marvelous if, they picked up a beast, a Dexter Lawrence or somebody like that, somebody that could just be that anchor in the middle to help with the run. That's what I'd like to spend some dough on, right? Because they're not going to do it at linebacker. They've invested at the edge. If anybody's a cornerback that can play right now, they're already here. Same thing with the safeties. Offensive line, what are you going to do? Who's out there? No one's going to give up a left tackle right now. Tight end, Higbee's scheduled to come back. You signed Parkinson. You're hoping Davis Allen's going to get back from this back thing, and Hunter Long is blocking people, so we're good there. They're not going to make a move at quarterback. You got Jimmy G. So it comes down to running back or receiver. I think the Rams love their running back room, and I think they got confidence in their receivers. And so my feeling is right now, if you're going to make a move, make it along the defensive line, and that's what I'd like to see. And also to answer one other question that came up, are we using Kyren Williams too much? No, I think this is the prove-it season for me for Kyren. It's his third season. Pound the ball with him. Find out, can he take a full season's play? Let's keep running him. Blake Corum will be the running back on this team at some point. I do believe. They are dressing him. They're not banishing him like they did Zach Evans. They believe in him. He brings a little bit of what Kyren does, maybe a little more physical, maybe not as much quickness. But find out, because if Kyren Williams can go off, run for 1,000 yards, score 20 touchdowns, then he puts the Rams in a dilemma because that's a lot to let walk away. That's a lot to let walk away. If he's a 10 touchdown guy, 900 yards, gets banged up a little bit, then you play season 4 with him as the final year. And then that's when it's like, okay, do we sign him or do we let him go for the comp pick? It's the nature of the beast. How do you sign these running backs, and how much are you going to give these running backs? If he's off the charts, 1,200 yards, 20 touchdowns, catches the ball, keeps doing what he's at, and he stays healthy, he puts the Rams in a little bit of a pickle because that's a heck of a back who knows how to block, right, and such. But at some point, we could be seeing the last 2 years of Kyren Williams. And I know that sounds awful, but it's just the nature of the game right now. Let's see here. Michael Negretti, what's the final score? I got Rams winning 23-10. I didn't say that, right? Rams winning 23-10. And hopefully it's prettier than that because I think that could be ugly. Mark Reiber, thank you for joining us. Rams 27-14 from your lips to the football god's ears. Michael Negretti, trade for a cornerback. How much would you give for a cornerback right now? You got Darius Williams coming back. You've got basically, I'm not going to say a 1-year deal with Darius Williams, but not a punishing deal with Darius Williams. And then you've got Trey White. Who's going to give the Rams a cornerback right now? Who? Maybe I'll do some investigation over the week, see a cruddy team, and see if somebody wants to get out of that business. The Rams gave up 2 number 1s for Jalen Ramsey, and I'd hate to see the Rams do that right now. I don't know if they're that close right now to do something like that. If this pass rush can start getting home a little bit more, I think our corners are going to look a lot better. I'm more concerned about our safeties than our corners at this moment. That's the part that scares me. Good thing that thought there. Evan Hotz, thanks for the good analysis. So thank you so much, Evan. Evan Hotz, it seemed to me like the Rams defensive line was squeezing the pocket on the 49ers and also in previous games this year. What do you mean by squeezing? Like just pressuring in? If you can define that a little bit, they were getting pressure. They've been getting pressure. They just can't finish. And maybe I'm being a little hard on Bobby Brown. I know he's got the bad ankle. I just think they can improve on the defensive line. Let's see here. If you can enlighten me a little bit what you mean, Evan. The Rams have been getting pressure. They have been putting pressure on the pocket. They just can't finish, as I see it. Ramley ties, hey, Teddy Bears, we're coming. Rams 31-13, even better. I'll take that one. Bill, is Rivers better than Corum? Let Corum run wild on Sunday. I think that basically is Rivers is more experienced than Corum right now. And that's where McVay's leaning. Did you see not only Rivers, but especially Kyren Williams? Those guys in pass pro protection are really good. We know Blake Corum can do it, but right now, these are 2 NFL veterans that are doing it, and Corum is just waiting his turn. I don't want to say I'm 100% positive. I'm 95% positive when the time comes, we're going to see Blake Corum and such. Evan Hotz, yes, pressure, but not getting, like you said. And they're young and developing, getting stronger all the time, and they will get home. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when they're going to get that. We mentioned at the top of the show, Kyler Murray was a primer for what they're going to get a little bit in Caleb Williams. And these guys can tackle. We know they can tackle or they wouldn't be at this level, right? If they couldn't tackle, they'd be playing for the Raiders right now, but they're playing for the Rams. We know they can tackle. And it's just getting adjusted and finishing. And I think they will. I think they will start to finish very, very soon. Tribe, thank you for clicking on. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, hit like, share, and everything. Help us build our footprint here. Still hate both middle linebackers. I completely understand. As I said in the last show, Troy Reeder is probably at the age of 30 right now because he so understands this system because he's been around for so long. Chris Shula's been around since 2017. He is assistant under Wade Phillips. He was an assistant under Staley, assistant under Raheem Morris. He knows these players. He knows this system, and they all got their little tweaks and modifications. But Troy Reeder is playing above his norm right now. He's playing above his mean. And so that's good news. Roseboom's Roseboom. I like Roseboom. Roseboom does give you some clicks sometimes. He's out there too long, he's exposed. He's a glorified special teamer. I know people are asking for Spates, and I think soon as they have confidence in Spates, they'll probably put Spates in there because he appears much more athletic, right? And I can't, how do we want to go into the Ernest Jones conversation, right? We'll get to see Ernest Jones this week on national TV. So I get that. I do get that. All right, cool. I think we're good. All right. Just a reminder, there in the box in the description, I did reactivate my podcast version of this on Spotify. As I shared many moons ago, Spotify asked me to update the whatever, to upgrade whatever, and I did, and they locked me out. Could not get back in, couldn't get any help. We did have someone comment, excuse me, asking, can I get back on Spotify? Well, I reintroduced a new podcast there. Basically, it's the same one. It's this show. It's called From the RamCave. If you could check us out on Spotify, we really appreciate the support there. We're happy to diversify our platforms. So if you can check us out on Spotify at From the RamCave. Let's see what we got here just before we wind this down. Reader will get 100 tackles. At this rate, Reader will get 100 tackles, Mr. Burns. I totally believe that. He will get 100 tackles at this rate. And there was one commenter just before I wrap up, was total disagreement with me, and that's okay. Well, not total. He felt I was being exaggerating a little when I gave that rant against Ram fans, that monologue against Ram fans at the start. I could only work off my experience, right? When I was a kid, I was there in the 70s. I was right there in the stadium, outside the stadium when the Rams lost to the Giants at home in 79. That was a bad Giants team. And I heard Ram fans booing the Rams, right? It wasn't uncommon to hear the Rams get booed, right? There was a lot of bitter and angerness, how they were viewed. And again, it is an LA thing. We're about having champions. Yeah, but Steelers haven't had a championship in 15 years, and their fans come and they're louder than Ram fans, right? 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl since Steve Young asked to get the monkey off his back in '94. And that scene of Jerry Rice pulling the mythical monkey off Steve Young's back. That was the last 49ers Super Bowl, but those 49er fans fill the house. Cowboy fans, they still think Captain Comeback is going to come out of the locker room and it's going to be, 1995 again, or they think Troy Aikman's going to come out of the booth, and they're still diehard fans. Green Bay fans are psycho, even though there was a long stretch there from Lombardi to the Brett Favre era. These fans are psycho. Ram fans will worry about titles. It's like, okay, but where are you when the team's not well? This is why it struggles. It's hard and I've spoken about this in the horns up community. I understand what Ram fans are saying. Horns up, man, keep focused. But if you question anything, if you say anything like, man, that they didn't look good. Oh no, the Rams are going to be just fine. It's horns up, right? It's like, no, they sucked on this. They made a bad move, right? And everything. And I don't know. I just think sometimes Ram fans need to be a little more nuanced and appreciate what you have. And it's okay to say they're bad and not be, delusional, but it's okay also to just be so devoted to your team. And that's okay too. But we see it. Rams are playing road games. Rams get 8 home games a year. Half of them are still road games. Personally, I think it toughens them up. I think you got the right quarterback for that. I come home and I get booed and I see a sea of red. It just focuses you because, we love to stick it to people who are rooting against us. Yeah, there we go. All right. Jokic won almost 30 years, if not. If you're talking 49ers, it's been 30 years. 29 for the Cowboys. 29. Rams have won 2 Super Bowls in that span. The Giants have won 2 Super Bowls in that span. Phillies won a Super Bowl, right? I mean, you can start rattling off the list. The Saints won a Super Bowl. Cardinals almost won a Super Bowl, if not for Roethlisberger's perfect pass to Santonio Holmes. So, yeah. Bill, the St. Louis Rams had the loudest Rams fans. They may have. But at the end, and I can't blame them for it, because Georgia and that John Shaw, that whole experience, that could cut the heart out of anybody. I totally get it. That could cut the heart out of anybody. And so they lost, at the end there, that wasn't necessarily the Edward Jones Dome wasn't packed. But I'm sorry for St. Louis. But we were sorry when we lost the Rams to them. But I welcome all St. Louis fans. I do. Because you know why? I want the St. Louis thing. I watched the Stafford, the Warner play. I watched the Mike Jones play. I screamed my barbaric yop when they won Super Bowl 34. And the rough part was accepting Georgia as part of that when she Moan, we did the right thing. It took some of the pleasure out of it. But, if I deny St. Louis fans, then I'm denying the Marshall Falks, the Torrey Holtz, the Isaac Bruces, right? So welcome St. Louis fans. Brian B., hope the Rams try out their rookie linebacker this Sunday. If they feel like they're confident in him, I could see it coming. I think it would be for Roseboom, but, I think it's just a question of, is he ready? Ramley Ties, 40 years for the Raiders, 41 years for the Raiders, 41 years. I will say that America's game on that Raider team in 83 is the best one they ever did. That's the one. On comes Marcus Allen running with the night. That was awesome. Check that one out on YouTube if you can. America's game, 83 Raiders. It's awesome. Tim Burns, no homers allowed. Call out the team when it sucks. Preach. Ramley Ties, Ram fans worldwide. There are Ram fans everywhere, but how can you not be a Ram fan? Just look at the jerseys, right? Look at the jerseys. Look at the uniform, right? It would be even better if they went back to that 70s version and just stuck with it, right? Don't worry about throwback stuff. Don't worry about manipulating things for sales. Just run that old thing. Let it become iconic, right, as it is. Okay, now I'm going to go. I stayed way too long at the party. I know here it is. I was ready to hang up. Things extend. Guys, just be sure to check out our podcast on Spotify from the RamCave. Be sure to subscribe here. If you've already subscribed, you don't need to resubscribe. And be sure to check out Game Day in the RamCave. And that would help support us here quite a bit. If you like high school football, Tim Burns actually gave me a nice review. Tangent Dreams is a high school football novel. You might want to check that out, both in paperback and Kindle formats. Okay. Getting ready to go here. We are going to wrap this puppy up. I'm dropping my page, dropping my notes before I go as we line this one up. SM, NFL fans from other states don't realize that those 49er fans are from SoCal. They're not traveling from or to Santa Clara. Same with the Cowboys, Packers, Steelers. NFL was gone for 20 years. Absolutely. Absolutely. We were talking about that. That's a part of it. You vacated the area for 20 years. What do you expect to happen? Right? You vacated the area for 20 years. It's going to take a lot. And again, I think it's even harder because it's LA and people are transplants here, and people that were here, they didn't have a team to root for when they were kids. It's an amalgam of things that caused the Rams to be on the road at home. All right. Jokic, Rams 34-16. Ramley Ties, Patriots 27-21 over Frisco. You think so? Ramley Ties. I gave this offer to USA Expat. I said if Cam Kitchens scores the Rams defensive touchdown this week, I'd send him a copy of one of my books and a mug from Kistler Law. If Ramley Ties, if the Patriots beat the 49ers this week, it doesn't even have to be 27-21, but if the Patriots beat the 49ers, I will do the same for you. I got to go to the post office anyway. I got a bunch of stuff I have to mail out. All right, guys, we went over an hour. Thank you so much for checking us out. God bless. Take care. Go Rams. We'll see you Monday.